I've heard some people refer to their COVID lockdown experience as a type of Groundhog Day. And without a doubt, it has been such a distressing time for so many people. It's so anxiety provoking. I mean, it's quite scary. We don't know what the future is going to bring. And I feel it has really shook a lot of us to our core because it has taken away a lot of the day-to-day distractions that are available to us when we're going about the humdrum of our busy lives. That being said, I think it is an incredible opportunity to start to practice meta awareness, creating an awareness of the way in which you engage with the world, the way in which you interpret the world. And so much of what we do is driven from a place of insecurity, a need for control, a sense of entitlement, a need for attachment and approval. And our conditioning, our past experiences, all influence the way in which we feel we have to show up, the way in which we feel we have to present ourselves to the world. And I suppose this brings us further and further away from our authenticity and our true potential for meaning and purpose and fulfillment and life satisfaction. And again, it becomes very self-serving as opposed to serving others. We tend to be quite selfish as opposed to practicing gratitude, and we tend to be on autopilot instead of trying to be as aware and as present as we can possibly be on a daily basis. And it's a story we're all fed. I mean, we're all chasing this pseudo happiness through materialism, and we get very much get the message that when you're sad, if you buy something you will be better, or if you drink something you will feel better, or if you look different you will feel better. And I suppose it's recognizing that none of those things make sustainable differences in our lives, and asking yourself, okay, well, if it hasn't worked before now, what makes me think that if I keep living the way that I've been living to date, that things are going to be any different? And we're terrible for that. We tend to keep repeating and doing the same things over and over again. We live our lives by patterns that we don't recognize, and we assume that things are going to turn out differently. We're very habitual. We don't like change. In fact, we find it very threatening. We also have all of these biases at work that we're not even aware of. We have a negativity bias. We have a recency bias that basically convinces us that what has been real for us in the last 5 minutes has been real for us for a lifetime. And that's a very dangerous way to think, because again, it's so misleading, and it can lead to a lot of frustration, particularly when it comes to our relationships. And we go through life with so many expectations. I think so much of the relationship pain that I see is from people expecting other people to act the way that they would, and that if I just give, if I just please everybody, they're going to please me and they're going to like me. And I mean, that is so far from the truth, and it just leaves you in a place of resentment and of anger. And that being said, you're never going to be able to fully eradicate the way that you think or your conditioning. You're never going to change your true feelings. But the more we can be with who we are, the more we can bring ourselves out of the head and into the body, because up here is a fucking nightmare. We try to intellectualize everything, we try to control everything, and all we do is drive ourselves fucking crazy. So it's about recognizing that we're not in control. It's also about recognizing the things that we do on a repetitive basis that are not beneficial and that cause us further suffering on top of the struggles that we already have. I'm not saying that we're to blame for everything that happens to us, but the way in which we engage with it and the way in which we navigate our way through our issues, that is our responsibility. That is down to us, and that's something that we can impact and influence on. And I suppose it's recognizing your patterns. It's recognizing the way in which you interpret the world and the way in which you engage with the world. It's recognizing what your beliefs are. And I mean, that can be really, really, I suppose, difficult for people, because again what you're doing is you're challenging what you believe to be the absolute truth. However, oftentimes what we believe to be truth is not so accurate, and again it's very much a result of our conditioning and of our childhood and of our past experiences, and we need to be able to recognize that. We need to be able to understand our tendency to want to rely on past information to predict our current life and to predict the future. And we need to be able to observe and to be insightful and to be very present with what is going on at any given moment. And there's some fantastic ways to bring yourself back to the present moment. Grounding is a fantastic one, and that's basically bringing yourself into the felt sense by calling on your senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What do I feel? What's the ground like under my feet? What are my clothes like on my body? Likewise, really acknowledging what your emotional experience is. And this can be tough, particularly if you are hurting. But the more we try to fight our emotional experience, the more incongruent we're going to feel. Whereas if we can recognize our sadness, if we can recognize our anger and our pain, and sit with it, then more often than not we just transcend through it in a very beautiful way. I mean, I've been going through a pretty shitty time at the minute, and I've just been having to bring myself back over and over again from the intellectualization of it into just the sheer sadness of it. And in a way there's a relief in that, because sadness can't kill you, and the more you allow it, the more you process it, the more you engage with it, the less it consumes you, the less power it has over you, because ultimately your mind and your emotions will take you down a meandering path if you don't recognize them and decide, do you know what, I am in the driving seat here, not with the emotions but with the thoughts that result as a consequence of the emotions. But you first of all need to be aware and mindful of the emotions, because when you're not, they're running the show. And I particularly love acceptance and commitment therapy. It's fantastic because it's a step further than CBT. It basically looks at, yes, kind of taking appropriate action and not always believing your thoughts, but it also works on the acceptance of life and the fact that you're going to struggle. It has a very humanistic aspect to it, and it basically looks at kind of accepting the suffering that comes, which is part and parcel of life, the anxiety that everyone experiences and the inevitability of that, but also being able to surrender to that and coexist with that and actually find a level of equanimity within that. And again, it goes beyond this paradigm of, oh, you can control your thoughts and everything's going to be fucking rosy, because that's not particularly realistic either. And again, it's about taking all of the good, I suppose, aspects about all the different approaches. I talk quite a bit about the whole positivity movement and how sometimes that can be just another form of avoidance. Yet we do have to try and direct our attention to positive experiences and embody them. And I know that's something that has been really helpful to me in the last few weeks, is basically noticing beauty around me, noticing the sunrises, noticing spring becoming summer. And it has really brought me a sense of hope and faith in whatever the future is going to bring. And I think that's a beautiful thing to be able to hold with you when you are struggling. It's also about looking at your body. I mean, bringing yourself into your body, asking yourself, where am I holding tension? And a body scan is a great way of doing that, recognizing where the stress, recognizing that we may have past trauma that is being held inside of us. And the more we can relax our body, the more we heal, the more at one we're going to feel. Working with the breath. I mean, when we really pay attention to our breathing, slow it down, make sure that we're getting really deep breaths in, I mean, we just feel better automatically. It just takes us away from that state of panic and anxiety and the wandering mind and brings us back, slows us down. And I mean, these practices are what improve our life. They add to our capacity capacity to show up for our relationships, both with ourselves and with other people and with nature. I mean, they really enhance our ability to slow down and to assess what's really going on for us, and to find what beliefs are working for us and what aren't, and to find a greater appreciation of all it is that we have, and consequently to seek out the purpose and meaning we need to feel fulfilled.